Okay, welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be doing the second part in my Six of Crows Bartender series. If you haven't seen part one, I'll be sure to link it up above and down below. But I decided to start this series on my channel that combines both my love of reading and my love of mixology. So mixology is like the science of making cocktails, and it is a hobby of mine that I do in my free time. Now, as I mentioned in the first video, if the techniques are off in this video or my pouring, finesse is not there, before you leave any comments down below, I have never been professionally trained. I've never been a bartender at a bar. This is just a hobby that I have, and I really enjoy combining that with my love of books. This was inspired by the Netflix adaptation of Shadow and Bone that's coming out in April, I think, the very beginning of April. And while I'm not a fan of the original Shadow and Bone trilogy, I absolutely adore Six of Crows. I've read the entire duology, both Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, 3 or 4 times at this point, I think 3 times. And I love it. I love the characters, I love everything about it. And after seeing the Netflix preview for the Shadow and Bone adaptation, I didn't really care at all when the other characters were on screen, but for like the 1 second that the Six of Crows characters are on screen, I freaked out. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to see these guys actually come to life in front of me. And that one moment of fangirling really inspired me to create some content to add to the hype of this adaptation. So I got to thinking, what would the Six of Crows crew order at a bar? What would they choose from all of the drinks, available out there? And so in part 1, I made drinks for Kaz, Inej, and Wylan. Again, it'll be linked down below, and you can go see what drinks I chose and why I chose them for those characters. And today, I'm going to be doing Jesper, Nina, and Matthias. Now, for the first one, let's go ahead and do Jesper. Now, Jesper is flashy, he is fabulous, he is confident, and he's not afraid to have a presence in a room. He can definitely hide from enemies or hide who he is if he wants to, or if the situation necessitates it, but almost always there's just some Jesper flair that is unavoidable and tends to bring attention to him. He's also unashamed of his vices. He says, this is who I am at this current state in my life. You're gonna have to take it or leave it. And while there might be some sort of guilt deep down for those things, he refuses to live his whole life trying to, atone for those things. He accepts who he is to a very large degree. For this next thing I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna put like a little spoilery notification in the bottom corner. So maybe if you haven't read Six of Crows or Crooked Kingdom, just mute it or skip forward to when the little spoiler thing is gone from the screen. Okay, you've had a chance to do that? All right. We also love a bisexual king in this house. So I also wanted to include the idea of different flavor profiles mixing together. That's why for Jesper, I have decided to do a drink called a sidecar. Now, a sidecar is served in a coupe glass. This is, again, a glass that I got secondhand, so it's got some interesting designs on it, but we will be serving it in this coupe glass. And typically a sidecar is cognac based. I do not have cognac because I almost never consume it, so I wouldn't buy it for just one drink. But there is something called a bourbon sidecar, so I will be making a bourbon sidecar. Now this drink has that little bit of extra flair that I just knew was necessary for Jasper, and that is it has a sugar rim. I'm sure you've heard of a salt rim before, especially with margaritas, but I personally prefer when drinks have a sugar rim. You can skip it, but in my opinion, it adds a lot of dimension and depth to this drink. So in order to get sugar to stick, you're gonna use some lemon juice. So I fresh squeezed some lemon juice earlier, so I'm just gonna take the outside and put some lemon juice around the rim of my glass. After that, I have a little plate full of sugar here, and we're just gonna tap, tap, tap the sugar onto the rim of the glass. Just see I'm tap, tap, tapping away. That lemon is a little older, so it's not sticking as well as I would have liked. Would have wanted it to be a little more decadent here, especially for Jesper. It seems like my lemon juice is not going to give me much. Okay, well, such is the nature of things, but we have a nice delicate sugar rim on the outside here. Now, for the Bourbon Sidecar, we're just going to need a few ingredients. The first is obviously going to be the bourbon. Today, I'm going to be using Early Times. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon. I had never tried this before, which is why I decided to purchase it and not my usual, Wild Turkey or another bourbon that I enjoy. And it's good. It's a pretty standard bourbon. I have nothing amazing nor negative to say about it. I just realized I forgot my jigger. Let me get that. It's a little important to have a jigger when you're making a drink, Taylor. Goodness. So let's go ahead and measure out 2 ounces of your bourbon. Okay. Next, we're gonna need 1 ounce of Cointreau. We know I can't pronounce characters' names on my channel. I also cannot pronounce fancy. I guess this is a French name. Definitely French. So I just say Cointreau in my house. That's how I refer to it, but feel free to correct me down below. This is an orange liqueur. So there are a bunch of different orange liqueurs out there. There's different ones called Curacaos as well. But for me, I really enjoy it's kind of got a deeper taste than some of the other liqueurs. You've probably also heard of Triple Sec. That's also another orange liqueur that you can mix in with drinks. But for me, particularly, I enjoy Cointreau. And the last liquid ingredient you're going to need is some fresh squeezed orange juice. Now, I mentioned in my part 1 that I know it's a pain to fresh squeeze citrus every time you want to make a drink, but I highly recommend it because it truly does make a difference in the drink itself. So this is the lemon juice that I squeezed earlier today. I'm gonna go ahead and put 1 ounce of that in. Now, you're gonna have to shake it up. So you're gonna take some ice, which I also mentioned in part 1. I do not have like big fancy ice cubes that they would definitely use at a bar, but I usually put 3 or 4 normal sized cubes. And you're gonna go ahead and shake it up. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and pour this into our sugared coupe glass. Ooh. Looking nice and fluffy and fresh. Right to the rim there. That's gonna be hard to sip. Now, the very last thing, which I also think makes a big difference in this drink personally, is a lemon twist. So earlier when I made my lemon juice, I peeled off the outside, some of the skin. And the skin of lemons, oranges, limes, like citrus in general, has a lot of oil in it. So what you want to do is you want to take it and you want to squeeze those oils out over the drink and then go ahead and slip it in the drink itself. Okay, so it's going to be really hard to pick up, but wish me luck. Oh, I'm going to take a sip before I bring it up to the camera. But there you have a sidecar, a bourbon sidecar. Ah, well, that is a fabulous drink. Could use a little bit more sugar, honestly. But here is the Bourbon Sidecar. I love presenting drinks in a coupe glass. They just look so classy. Man. I mean, I usually put more sugar around the rim, but I made the lemon juice much earlier today, so, not much earlier, but a couple hours earlier. So the lemon, you know, the portion of the lemon that I used to put the juice on there is a bit older, so it's not as, you know, liquidy. So it didn't grab the sugar how I would have liked. I would want a bit more sugar on the rim, but the taste of the sweetness of the sugar mixed with the kind of, I don't know how to describe it, it's almost spicy aspect of the drink itself is amazing. Much like Jesper himself, you know? Jesper is almost a walking contradiction. He can feel guilty for his vices at the same time as fully embracing them. And he can be confident in who he is while still not being willing to explore different parts of himself. So I think that those two kind of warring parts of him are displayed in this drink. Also, the sugar is just unapologetically out there, you know it's sugar, just like you know it's Jesper. He's just unapologetically himself. I can just imagine Jesper going to a bar, ordering this drink, you know, winking at someone who's caught his eye across the bar, and just taking a sip. And you know, Jesper just wouldn't be Jesper without that little bit of sugar to sweeten the spice. Now the next drink we're gonna make is for Matthias. Matthias is stoic, strong, very tied to his traditions. Now, for those of us who've read the books, we do know that he starts going his own way, finding his own strength, and separating from those traditions, but he's still very much rooted in them, and that's where his strength kind of comes from. He also holds to a very strict moral code. He's a bit ridiculous when it comes to, you know, not thinking he should be happy. He does a lot of, you know, self-sacrificial things. He almost likes to suffer a little bit. And he can be pretty bitter about certain things throughout the story. And so since he has this kind of more complex, kind of bitter history, I wanted to do a very unique drink. Unique in taste, I mean, and that is going to be the Negroni. The Negroni is served in a rocks glass. It is a classic drink, and I believe it was invented in Italy, though I don't remember when, maybe early 1800s, mid 1800s. Correct me in the comments down below if you know. But this is a classic drink. It has been around for quite some time, but the taste is very unique. This is a stirred drink, so we will not be using the shaker for this one. So what you're going to do is put some ice in your rocks glass to begin. Again, I don't have like the big ice cubes, but this should suffice. So just fill it up. I have 4 ice cubes in here. Then this is a very simple drink to make. It is equal parts gin, Campari, and vermouth. You'll want to use a sweet vermouth for this. I'm going to be using Cinzano vermouth. It is from Italy, but this is one of the only vermouths I've seen in store in Japan. So, you know, I'm not very learned in different types of vermouths, so I think this one's pretty standard. So what we're gonna do is take 1 ounce of our sweet vermouth. Next, we're going to use our Campari, which is a very bitter flavor. It adds a lot of flavor to your drink. So when you add Campari, you'll definitely know it's in the mix. So for this one, we're also going to be putting 1 ounce. Oh, more than 1 ounce. And the last part to this is going to be your gin. You can use any gin that you prefer. I'm going to be using the same one from my previous video, a London dry gin, Beefeater. This bottle's almost out. I have another one, so we'll see if this has an ounce. Nope. It does not. So I'm gonna need to go get the other bottle. I'll be right back. Okay, let's crack open a fresh bottle here. Go ahead and finish pouring that ounce. And we're gonna add that to our rocks glass. Now all we have to do is stir it. Now I highly recommend that you stir Negronis well. Because for me personally, once the ice starts to dilute and those flavor profiles, those really strong profiles start to really mix together, I think that that's where the magic of this drink happens. But it is still going to be a very mature flavor. But I think that you just really need to blend them together really well. That should be okay. Then the final thing is a twist of orange. Spray the oils all over it, and then I like to deposit some oils around the outside of the rim and put it in. So this is your Negroni for Matthias. Cheers. Yeah. I've really started to like these more recently. It's a very acquired taste, just like Matthias is. When you first meet him, he's a little harsh or cold or just stoic, and you can't really break through his wall. But as you get to know him, as you get a couple more tastes of him, you realize that he's more complex than you originally thought. Like, the original taste of this is very bitter, especially the first time you have it. It's overwhelmingly so. But once you kind of can take the time to let the drink settle, to let your taste buds settle, you can start to taste the different intricacies of the drink along the way. And that just reminds me so much of Matthias, because that's just who he is. And just like him, by the end of the book, you're probably in love with him. And by the end of this drink, you're probably going to have a really different opinion of it than you did at the beginning. Plus, this drink is very true to its roots. It has not changed over the years. And that also stands for Matthias's strong connection to where he comes from. Definitely have to wash this jigger after using Campari, so I'll be right back. Now, as I'm sure you can devise through a process of elimination, our last character is Nina. Nina. I love her so much. Her and Inej battle as my favorite character. Or maybe Jesper. I don't know, those three rotate, but Nina just, I don't know, she has a special place in my heart and I love her so much. Nina is fabulous. She is confident. She walks into a room and makes sure that you know she's there. She'll probably get your attention on her own just by existing, but if not, she's gonna let you know that you should have been paying attention. She's just bright, vibrant, and she really adds a lot of the fun to the group, to the crew. Without her, there wouldn't be so much light, you know, for all of these characters. And I just wanted to make sure that I picked a drink that encompassed all of that about her. So for her, we're going to do a Cosmopolitan, a Cosmo. I'm sure you've heard of this drink, even if you're not big into cocktails. It was made really popular by, I believe, Sex and the City in the 90s. But this is a very fabulous looking drink. It's pink in color, and it has a lot of different flavors inside. Now, this is traditionally served in a martini glass, which I don't have. And the next best thing is a coupe, which I used for the sidecar. So the only thing I have that's relatively that shape is this, which is actually a little snack glass, which, you know what, is perfect for Nina because, you know, her and her waffles and her chocolate and her need to be snacking on good food. You know, it's not the most comfortable thing for me to hold to drink from, but it's perfect for Nina, honestly. So we're gonna go ahead and use this. Now, the first ingredient you're going to need is simple syrup. Now, you may remember from the first episode, I talked about simple syrup. It is simply a 1-to-1 ratio of sugar and water. So you put your sugar and your water in a saucepan, you melt the sugar, you have your simple syrup. So this calls for 0.25 ounces or 1/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, or 8 milliliters if you are milliliter inclined. I almost put it in the glass. Guys, why didn't you say something? Next, we need a 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of lime juice, which I don't have. Okay, right. Next, you're going to need a 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of lime juice. So I have some fresh squeezed lime juice here. It's the juice of 1 lime, which is just enough. Next, you're going to need 1 ounce of cranberry juice, 1 ounce or 30 milliliters. Now, this is obviously what gives it its pink color. So I have put some Kirkland Ocean Spray cranberry juice in here. I'm gonna put 1 ounce of that. This was really hard to find in Japan. Like, can't get it anywhere except at Amazon, honestly. There was no in-store possibility for cranberry juice. It's crazy. Next, you need 1 ounce or 30 milliliters of Curacao. I mentioned earlier that there are a bunch of different orange liqueurs that you can use. I don't have a Curacao, but I do have Cointreau, so I will be using that as a substitute. But it does specifically call for a Curacao. 1 ounce of that. And the last aspect is the base spirit of this drink, and that is vodka. So I do have some Smirnoff in the corner here. I'm not a big vodka base drinker. I much prefer bourbon or whiskey or even rum. But the Cosmopolitan is quite yummy, so I make a pass for this one. You're gonna put 2 ounces of that into your shaker. Now this is a shaken drink, so we're gonna go ahead and put some ice in the shaker. If I can get some ice. There we go. Woo! And shake it up. Okay, so I think this is gonna be a bit more liquid than can fit in this snack bowl. We'll go ahead and pour up to the top here. There's a little bit left in there. And now the very last thing is a garnish. So you want to garnish it with a lime wedge. Usually I would cut into it and put the lime wedge on the side, but the sides of this are quite thick, again, because it's a snack thing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and float that on the top. And this, I'll get it close to the camera after I take a sip, is the Cosmopolitan. Light, refreshing. Here is the Cosmopolitan. Served in a snack bowl. Right on brand for Nina, honestly. Now, someone might scoff at this drink for being girly and unnecessarily complicated, but Nina is girly and unnecessarily complicated. And you know what? She is just the more fabulous for it. If you like dressing up, looking nice, feeling girly, just like Nina herself and the Cosmo here, you do you. There is nothing wrong with that. And that quality of just being fabulous, to me, reminds me of Nina. And I could so imagine her sipping this across the room. So to conclude for this video, we have the Cosmo for Nina. We have the Negroni for Matthias. And we have the Bourbon Sidecar with lipstick marks for Jesper. And I think that these three were really good choices for those characters. So go ahead and let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my choices, if you disagree with them. If you're watching this for the cocktails, let me know which cocktail you're going to try. or which one sounds like it's not up your alley at all. Also, I would love to talk with you in the comments down below about Six of Crows and just loving on it and talking about the hype for this new Netflix adaptation, just anything and everything. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Jenny!